Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barcelona Soccer Excellence Houston. This is my first FM22 save after getting the game for Christmas. And for those of you who are familiar with my style from the FC Smorgon save on FM21, you can expect to see a fair bit of the same here. Not necessarily as consistent as to when the updates will be though, because the entirety of this save is getting streamed on Twitch. So there will not be any matches played in these recap videos like I tried with the one match against Bate on the Sporgan save. So more about the club in a minute. This is with Zealand's American database. Zealand helped put the project together and then put the people in place, made sure that those people had what they needed to complete the project. I suppose you could call him the lead project coordinator for the project. For this database was one of his moderators, Readthemeade. So big thank you to Zealand, Readthemeade, and their team for all their work on this project. This is also with the Zealand skin. The Zealand skin is available on the Steam Workshop, but if you have FM through another source, I will also provide a link to that in the description as long as I remember to, as well as a link for where you can download this database if it interests you. So basically, if you're familiar with from FM or from watching football with like the MLS and the American lack of pro-rel, that sort of thing, this is a complete reimagining of the system. Sort of tears up the MLS, albeit most of those teams are in the new top flight. It also, amongst other things, puts the US on a similar calendar to most of Europe, where the season will start in August instead of in March. Of course, the club I'm managing is down in Houston, but you can imagine that that's going to make home matches in northern states like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan fun in January and February. The upcoming US World Cup qualifier in early February that's going to be played in St. Paul, Minnesota is a testament to the sort of thing you would expect on a regular basis in this database. So you have 7 playable tiers in this database. The top 3 tiers are all national. And then, of course, with the US being a big country, you get down into regional leagues below that. So you have the Tesla Major League Premiership. This is most of the current MLS sides, like I said. Yes, the Canadian sides are in here. And of course, in world football, you have the precedent of like English and Welsh sides crossing the border to play in each other's league systems as an example of precedent for that. So then you get the Chase North American Championship, which is the 2nd tier league. That's the rest of the MLS sides, plus like a lot of like the 2nd tier sides. And it's here where we see another one of the features of this database. Because 7 playable tiers, they had to create a whole bunch of new clubs to help fill out the database. One of the things they did is bring back some of the historic clubs which are now defunct. An example you see in this league is Chivas USA. For those who aren't familiar with it, Chivas USA is a now defunct side that used to play in the MLS, who were affiliated with the Mexican Giants Chivas. They never, or most of their time in MLS the club was very bad, and then, like, for financial reasons, I think amongst other things, the club folded. So they have been brought back. If you want to try to take them over and lead them to glory that they didn't achieve before, you have the ability to do that. So the third tier, we have the Xbox United League, which, like I said, is, again, a national league. So you get clubs, yeah. So examples, yeah, you got like Las Vegas, Richmond, up in New England. So yeah, clubs all over the nation still in that tier. And then once we get down to the fourth tier, the Amazon Prime division, then it splits out into 4 regions. And this is where we also start to see what's described as dynamic relegation, to help keep the regions balanced, so you don't end up with like a club from Hawaii playing in a Northeastern league. Extreme example, but you get the idea. So dynamic relegation helps to avoid things like that happening. You have at least 1 club getting relegated in this tier. You could have up to 4 more, depending on like how the regions do and where clubs are going up and down. So you want your region doing well, not just your club. Another thing you see at this level, or exemplified starting at this level, is another way that they help fill out this database. In the US, you have sort of like the traditional Big 4 sports, the baseball, American version of football, basketball, hockey. For this database, all of those teams created sporting or athletic clubs. They have pretty good facilities for the level that they're in, so they have potential to go up the leagues pretty quickly. Budget-wise, to help sort of keep things balanced, they're given like 1% of the budget of the club that they're based on. But so like here we have the Fenway Kenmore Red Sox AC, who play in Fenway Park. For those who aren't familiar with American baseball, this is basically the Boston Red Sox, and sort of one of the tells is that they play in Fenway Park. That's where the baseball team plays. There is a spreadsheet out there that shows like where all of the teams in those 4 leagues play. If you want to take over one of them, that I do not have a link to handy, at least. But you can see some fairly decent facilities for a 4th tier side. But so yeah, 1 team for sure would get relegated, up to 4 more, depending on how things go elsewhere, would also get relegated. Then you get down into the 5th, 6th, and 7th tiers, where the regions further break down into a total of 8 regions. You have the Netflix Championship, and then Netflix League 1 and 2, And then there are lower leagues below that that are unplayable. So if you take over a Netflix League 2 side and they get relegated, you're getting sacked. Just like in FM, like for example, if you were manage a 6th tier side in England who ended up getting relegated, you would automatically be sacked. There are also additional cups that have been created to help fill out the seasons because these leagues are fairly big. So you get a lot of different breakdowns as to how the season plays out. I think some of them, like you play everybody once, and then the league splits in half, and then you play everybody in that half. So at this point, let's get more to why you're actually here. Barcelona Soccer Excellence Houston, the club I'm managing. So why they're called that is that this is actually an American affiliate of the Spanish Giants FC Barcelona. They get a little under $11,000 a year for the affiliation, and then there's various other perks for each side. The big club, of course, will benefit more than we will. So like we can send academy players over there to train, but some of them may end up going into Barca's youth intakes then. Is one example of that. And they have like first option on buying clubs from our club. Sort of things. So how did I end up here? Well, when I got the game and this database was coming out about the same time, I knew I wanted to play with this database in the bottom playable league, bottom playable tier. And I wanted a club because I knew I was going to create Twitch content, YouTube videos off of this. If you want to watch me play this stream on Twitch, link to that, of course, will be in the description. But I wanted a challenge with some potential at the same time. Down in this sort of level, finances are often the big concern, which is why the little bit of money I'm getting from Barca will help out a little bit. But as a trade-off, we have a tiny little 300-seat stadium. Most of the clubs in this tier play in stadiums at least twice that size, and probably over half of them play in probably at least half, maybe a bit more. I didn't do the math on this. Play in stadiums that are at least 1,000 seats. We've been close pretty much every home match to filling our stadium. Whereas like the places we've gone, most of them haven't been close, just sellouts. But one of the additional perks to our affiliation with Barca is we have a little bit better facilities than other clubs at our level, or most other clubs, because most other clubs are poor training, poor youth. We're on basic of each. But this is an amateur club. There is no restriction on how young or how old the players are that we can sign, which helps us out. Because as you'll see in a minute, there are, when I get into talking about some of the other sorts of ways they help fill out this database, you actually get to see clubs that are actually strictly amateur who can sign only like under 23s. This is the league we're in, Netflix League 2. The top 4 sides promote. The bottom 3 for sure get relegated, and up to 5 more could get relegated depending on the dynamic relegation and where those sides are. But if you're an astute observer, you may notice a rather interesting club at the bottom of the table. And this is another way that they help to fill out this database. Southern Methodist University Mustangs. This is actually a college in the US. There are a number of these in this database. For those who aren't familiar with the history of American sports, which may be a number of you, especially those in Europe, though some of you may be familiar with this story. What SMU, as they're known for short, is best known for is the rather infamous incident back in the 80s with their American football side, who, because of cheating scandals, was given what was called the quote-unquote death penalty, where their team was not allowed to play games for a full season. The university opted to extend that to an additional season because of the restrictions that the governing body, the NCAA, was placing on the school for that following season, and helped create a clean break, and their team was horrible for a couple of decades after that. So that's the league we're in. We play everybody once. You don't want to picture trying to play everybody twice in a league of 32 teams. You're talking 62 matches. That season would never end. And these squads are thin enough as they are. We also, though, have... Oh, actually, I'll go to this screen for this. The Lamar Hunt American Open Cup. That's basically the U.S. version of the FA Cup. And then we have the Phil Woosnam League Cup, which doesn't begin till January. That's like a league cup. Can I see? Is this just the... Okay, yeah. This looks like it's just the Netflix league sides. So, which helps keep it a little bit more fair. Because actually the season, by playing everybody once, actually ends in March. So that helps give you extra matches after that stage of the season. So we are actually 3.5 months into the season already. I had intended to do this video before now, but there was some stuff I wanted to be doing as far as trying to produce a little better quality of content, or at least make baby steps towards that. You should see that if I do this right on the thumbnail for the video sort of thing. So this season, actually, before I go into that, I should talk about the squad, who I'm still getting to know a lot of these guys. Our best player is Sergio Luna, 16-year-old striker. 8 goals, 2 assists in 12 league matches, averaging a 7.3. Some good pace, not necessarily the best finishing, but you don't expect that at this level. Other players who have produced on the season include On the other end, we have Santiago Flores, 20-year-old American keeper. In 14 matches, allowed 10, 9 clean sheets. Average little over 7. So defensively, we're a fairly decent side. Also, another of our more standout players, Fernando Morris, who's played almost every match. 19-year-old center back, averaging just over a 7. Not particularly great at anything, but that based on that average rating, he's been producing better than his attributes would suggest. And he has also scored for us, like off a set piece. And then one more guy who actually is been producing well for us is Anthony Craig, a left winger. 12 league matches, 4 goals, 4 assists, average rating 7.19, couple man of the match awards. Pretty decent speed for this level. Passing vision, not terrible. So he has also been involved quite a bit in the attacking moves that we've made that have been successful. I have not actually been able to sign anybody. Most players have a club in this database, and to try to help fill out depth before the deadline or transfer deadline, I'd actually offered trials to like 40 players. Only one of them accepted, and that guy was so bad that he was immediately cut. But I did have the guy that I was going to rely on as my second striker poached by another amateur club. So after that, I resorted to this, what the game calls a 4-2-3-1 asymmetric. We had the flat back 4, 2 defensive mids, 2 wingers on attack to help create additional numbers forward. So I got the 6 guys that stay home, the 4 guys that get forward primarily. So I have the attacking midfielder. He's actually the only attacking midfielder I've got. He originally, when I had the 2 strikers, I didn't really have a place for him, so he was going to be sort of like the 3rd striker. But when I lost the other guy who was going to be a striker for me, I switched to this tactic because Castillo's a good enough player that he should be on the pitch most of the time. Yeah, that's set up right for this next match. So, because I play one of the worst teams in the league next. But so what you really want to know is, how has this season gone so far? We opened up with a cup first preliminary round match. There were 2 preliminary rounds leading up to, I believe it's like 7 qualifying rounds in the Lamar Hunt Cup before we get to the main draw, which is like when the MLS sides are, what are currently the MLS sides, come into the tournament, or at least closer to the time when those sides will enter. So we open up with a 1-0 win away. Ivan Lukic, a right winger, came off the bench to score in the 90th minute in a match that we had definitely controlled. That was followed up by the league opener away to East Valley, which was a 4-1 win. We scored twice in each half. They got a penalty just after the hour mark that cut it to 2-1 before we put it away. In this basically, in this league, for those who are sort of familiar, at least with U.S. geography, most of the clubs in the league are from Texas. You also see clubs from like Arizona, New Mexico, Louisiana, Arkansas, Tennessee. So that's the area of the country where this league is, if you were wondering. Orange County Academy was next for our first home match of the save in the Cup second preliminary round. A convincing 3-0 win. We were 1 up at half and then added a pair in the second half, followed by our home league opener against NTX Legends, that's North Texas. Castillo from the spot, 37th minute. He has a couple of penalty goals for us this season for the only goal in that match. Followed by an away trip to Sporting AZ FC in the league. Again, a 1-0 win. Luna in first half stoppage time with the only goal. Followed by maybe the most impressive result of the save so far. Breakers FC are a side 2 leagues above us. We welcomed them in the first qualifying round of the Cup. We won 2-0. Left back from the spot, 35th minute. And then an own goal by their in the 93rd minute to seal it. I will actually go ahead and show the goals to this match. But this wasn't exactly a fluke. We did out XG. Well, we created more shots and whatnot, out XG'd them, but a decent chunk of that XG was that penalty. So that up 1-0. Here's second half stoppage time. The defender tries to play the ball back to the keeper. Keeper's not expecting it. It just trickles into the net. Based on XG, it would have been a pretty 50-50 match if you take out that penalty. So maybe a bit lucky to win 2-0. So after 6 wins in 6 matches in all competitions in August, we opened September with a home match with FC Grande, which is a side from New Mexico. And all of a sudden, our form went from the attic to the basement. Nobody turned up for us in this match. They won 1-0 on a 96th minute penalty, which was rather frustrating. Nobody for us like above a 6.7 rating in that match, to give you an idea how bad we played. Followed up with a 0-0 home draw with Graceland Sporting, who are actually one of the top teams in the league this season. So in hindsight, this actually was a decent result. We actually did sell out totally for this match. Then we had the second qualifying round match in the Cup against LSA Atletico Lanier, who were only 1 tier above us. So I had a little bit of optimism going into this match, though I knew it was still going to be tough. Ended up losing 3-2. They went ahead twice. We pegged them back twice. And when we equalized in the 80th minute, I had gone attacking to see if we could turn it around. But since we'd played 3 days before and we were playing 4 days after, I actually kept the attacking on because I didn't really, as thin as our squad was, want to try to go an extra half hour. And it ended up hurting us. They scored in the 85th minute to win it. They did have a guy sent off in the 93rd minute, but there was only like 90 seconds of stoppage time left at that point. Too little time for us to do anything. That was followed by a 1-0 away win over Revolution FCO, where we got a 5th minute goal from Craig, that winger that I showed earlier that stood up, followed by an 8-goal thriller with Arlington FC. We kept going sort of back and forth with this one, and this is the other match I'm actually going to show the goals for. We were definitely put up the better quality chances. They get a opening minute penalty that they convert to take the lead. We come pretty much right back. Center back over the top of the cue ball. And we get on the end of that at 1. And here we're putting in the 2nd minute. Got back in the corner. I don't know how the keeper didn't end up getting on that cross, but it ended up finding its way to Luna again. First half brace, 2-1 us. Then in first half stoppage time, this is just after halftime. Our defense fell asleep. They get an equalizer. 55th minute. Hard to argue with that right cannon shot. They go up 2-2. Castillo from the spot. We all think the yellow here. Here in the 86th minute. Put it off the underside of the bar to give them the lead. A couple minutes later, Bruno completes his hat-trick into the top corner. It ends up 4-4 in a match that we out-XG'd them 2.86 to 1.72. In a match where both sides had a penalty. So there were a lot of good looks being created in that match. Follow that up with beginning October with a 4-0 home demolition of Lone Star Republic. Craig and Luna with braces each. 2 goals in each half as we put in a convincing performance. That was followed by an away trip to Dallas City, who top half side in the league, at least at the time, if I remember right. Defensively, we looked okay. Attacking-wise, we didn't do a good job with our chances. Ends up 0-0. Followed up with an away trip to FC Harrington. They were about 25th in the league at the time of this match, which made our performance in this match particularly disappointing, as well as the fact that we actually led this match 1-0 at halftime. They get 2 in the opening 10 minutes of the second half, and then at a 93rd minute insurance goal, we lose 3-1. Followed up by a home match with Readthemeade. This is actually the first opponent we played who, at the time of the match, was actually ahead of us in the league. We get the 2-0 win. We get 49th and 59th minute goals to get the result. Followed by an away trip to Tucson Maccabees. Again, defense looked pretty solid. Attack didn't produce. Ends up 0-0. And then the most recent couple of matches here in November, a 2-0 home win over Side FC 92. We get 2 goals fairly early in the second half. 50th and 58th minutes to secure the points. And then an away 1-1 draw with Regal's SCA. We had the lead, looked like we were going to have a 4th straight clean sheet, and then they find a 93rd minute equalizer to steal points. A little bit disappointing there. Board expectation for the season is only mid-table, so we're well on our way towards that, being that we are currently 6th in the league. So we're in the promotion conversation. And in both cups, the board just wants us to be competitive. So we definitely exceeded that in the Lamar Hunt Cup. Okay, being that we are amateur, nobody's getting paid. I'm not even getting paid. And our expenses are also minimal. In our league, we also get prize money for wins and draws, which helps in addition to the money we got from the cup. So our balance has climbed from rather limited amount. It was only like 16 grand about the time I took over. Now we're closing in on 100,000 in our balance. Profit of $83,000 so far this season, and we've got over half the league season to go. I do not know for sure if one promotion would be sufficient to get us semi-pro, or if we would need 2 before we would become semi-pro. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it, and of course part of that is the finances. And of course with the 300-seat stadium that we play in, we're going to be facing expansion for that sooner than later, presumably. Only one actual injury of note right now. Zhang Jingfeng, Chinese defensive mid who does have a green card, so he doesn't count as a foreign player. He's played most matches for me. He's been out a couple of weeks already with a double hernia. He's going to be out probably a good three to 4 more weeks. He's averaged almost a 7 for us in the matches he's played. Matter of fact, all of the players that would have otherwise been considered foreign for us have actually gotten green cards here or before the season started, so none of them counted as foreign players. Going forward, I think I'm going to aim for putting out updates more like every 2 months. This one was a bit longer, like I said. There's some background stuff I wanted to try to do to try to boost the quality a little bit. But we're off to a promising start so far this season. We'll see where it goes from here, because I haven't played all that many of the teams above me in the league yet. So we'll see how things develop. But thank you all for watching this video. And like I said, I'll leave links for like this database, the Zealand skin, for those of you who aren't using Steam to play FM, and to my Twitch channel in the description below the video. I hope you all have a great day, and we'll see you next time here at BSE Houston.